And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a registered FSP. 7 minutes after 6, Friday edition of The Money Show. In so many ways, it doesn't really feel like a Friday. If you've been in Sandton today, you're possibly still stuck there, simply because of the G20. And I realize that I am lucky enough to get to report on it and in some small way sort of be a part of it. But I think there is a real sense of anticipation. There are so many people that you will have seen and heard in so many other forums around the world and seen them going into this place or that place. Think of someone like Narendra Modi, easily one of the most powerful people in the world, someone who has a huge influence on world affairs. And he landed today at the Waterkloof Air Force Base. Think of Emmanuel Macron, someone you kind of think of, I don't know, in association, I suppose, with the Eiffel Tower or some symbol of France. And here he is. And it's not just them. There's so many others. The Brazilian president, Lula da Silva, also here. And in so many ways, I think just the fact that they're here, Antonio Guterres has been speaking, Ursula von der Leyen has been speaking as well. In so many ways, that kind of just gives you a sense that, you know, things are going on and they really are quite important. Now, I don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of days. There are some reporting, I think well-informed reporting by people I know and trust, suggesting that actually there will be some kind of sort of leaders' declaration. I don't know what the language will be. We won't know for some time. I do get a sense, though, that things are moving. And if you look at the language President Cyril Ramaphosa has used to the Trump administration, sort of in response to them, well, things are going on. Anyway, very interested to hear your view on it. You may think that the G20 is the best thing since, well, I don't know, the Springboks or sliced bread. You may think that they are something, that you may think the G20 is actually going to lead to real change. You may think that the G20 is just a party for, you know, a small group of sort of the global elite who come here. We spend money on it and we get nothing from it. Very happy to hear your views one way or another. Voice notes, of course, on 072 702 1702 and 02. And then you can call us on 011 8830 702 and 021 446 0567. Don't forget, by the way, the Friday Biz Blitz tonight. Questions, one or two about the G20, also about companies that are likely to list soon, and one or two other questions coming up. In a moment, you'll hear from Stavros Nicolau. He's been involved in the B20. We'll ask him how we're looking ahead of the G20. We'll also speak to Dr. Mzwanele Ntswanti. He's a senior researcher, been looking at the G20. Also Dale McKinley about what's going to happen over the next couple of days. And then in Friday File tonight, we'll speak to Kgothatso Moloto, the founder of Niche Parfums. I think I've pronounced that correctly. Talking about how it is that you create a scent. That's a scent with a C.
The Money Show
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
and DSTV channel 856.
Well, the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, spending the day setting the stage for the G20. Some high-profile events with European leaders. Antonio Guterres has just been speaking. The Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, is here. Lula da Silva from Brazil is here. Of course, the U.S. still not sending anyone, even though it is the biggest economy in the world. And in some ways, the big event that sort of set the stage for the G20 this weekend was the B20, which ended yesterday. Stavros Nicolau is a senior executive at the Aspen Group. He's a board member of BUSA. He's been involved in some of these conversations as well, leading up to the G20 this weekend. Stavros, good evening, and thanks for your time. You played quite a big role in that interface between government and business over the last few years. How do you think South Africa is looking right now? We've had the B20 and the G20 starts tomorrow.
Stephen, firstly, good evening to you and all the listeners. It's a great pleasure to be on. And I think we should just take a moment to reflect on and seize the moment. It's a monumentous moment in a sense, the first ever G20 to be hosted on African soil. And what did we as a business community hope to achieve? What were our objectives? Just very high level, two things. The first was that we execute seamlessly on the B20 event. It was a 2-day event with a number of side events today. And by all accounts, the feedback we've had from the the multitude of international business people that traveled here from all countries, including the United States. Incidentally, the CEO of the United States Chamber of Commerce, to whom the South African B20 presidency handed over the baton yesterday, were here. And the report backs are, number one, you've put Africa on the map. We weren't as well acquainted with Africa. And the second thing is we see immense potential and opportunity, and that would hopefully lead itself to investment in our country, particularly FDI. Now, that was objective one, seamlessly execute. And I think just at a personally reflecting, I think everything was very slick over the last 3 days. Now, the second objective was to position our country particularly to the international investor community, to use this as a platform to boost confidence off the back of some of the recent good news we've had, the Standard & Poor upgrade, our removal from the FATF grey list, the fact that we've had very few days of load shedding. We seem to be getting on top of the energy mix and energy security. So this was a good time actually to host the B20 event. And as I said, front and center was to position the country favorably and positively to the investor community. So that's kind of what we looked for. Of course, time will tell how successful we've been, but certainly the early feedback and reflections are immensely positive.
You also were looking at issues around non-communicable diseases in Africa. So I think diabetes, which is a big problem in our society, heart disease, there's so many others. The conversations at B20, I mean, do you think that you've been able to make progress on those?
So health has, since COVID, health has become a fundamental conversation that takes place at the B20. This is my fourth B20. Some of the earlier editions were held remotely because of COVID. And certainly the health agenda has gained significant prominence over the last 4 years. I think the business community and governments around the world, particularly finance ministries, trade and industry ministries, have realized that economic growth and healthcare are in some way intertwined, and non-communicable diseases, these are diseases that are acquired through non-infectious routes. So you've got infectious diseases like HIV/AIDS and TB, and then you've got non-infectious diseases like the ones you cited, cardiac disease. Diabetes is probably the most sinister, Stephen, of the lot. And then, of course, you've got cancer and others. And we are seeing a rising tide of these non-communicable diseases in Africa. This will overtake the infectious disease pandemics that we've experienced unless we turn the tide. So the discussions were very much about sensitizing governments, the business communities to the economic impact of non-communicable diseases. And these we had a number of subject matter experts speaking on the effects of this on productivity, the competitiveness of the country, how this strains budgets, and of course, how does it affect economic trajectories. So a really, really important conversation and some really good suggestions on how we move forward on this topic.
Stavros Nicolau, thanks very much indeed. Obviously been one of the people at the B20, a BUSA board member and also a senior executive at the Aspen Group. 16 minutes after 6. Well, let's look now to Nasrec. Let's look now to the G20. Dr. Mzwanele Ntswanti is a senior researcher for the G20 at the Institute of Economic Justice. Mzwanele, good evening and thanks for your time. I mean, as I talk to you now and you see all of these people arrive and everybody's kind of here and for a moment Joburg is sort of at the center of things, it's all quite exciting. In the cold light of day tomorrow morning or maybe Monday morning, is there much scope for any kind of agreement to come from the 19 countries that will be in the room at Nasrec?
Good evening, and thank you for having me, and greetings to the listeners. It's quite an exciting time, and people have been quite engaged with the G20 in various ways throughout the year, because the host year of the G20 would take from the 1st of December until the 30th of November for each country that hosts. And everyone looks forward to the Leaders Summit, where the leaders of the biggest countries in the world that constitute about 85% of the global GDP and over 60% of the world's population gather to talk about the most pressing challenges globally of the economy. So at the end of it, and all of these things that we've done, come Monday, people, of course, look forward to what the leaders would have agreed to in the form of a declaration. So they will basically elevate the issues globally that they think are affecting the economies. But that declaration, of course, is building consensus amongst these countries and amongst the leaders. But a lot happens below that agreement in the form of global cooperation.
Sure. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What I need to ask is, do you think there'll be an agreement? I mean, if you look at some countries, so for example, we as South Africans believe in inclusion. I think India might back that. I think China might back that. I don't think Argentina necessarily will back that. How difficult do you think it'll be to get to some agreement?
I think agreement has been quite difficult in the G20 this year in particular, but it's not really the first year that you find the difficulty in the agreement in the G20. So for an example, I can make this year there were some agreements in the form of ministerial declarations. Those are seen as victories. So we are still yet to see what will come out of the weekend, because the negotiations and the discussions have been going well. But some of the areas that, for instance, the ministers could not agree on are things such as, for instance, energy transitions, health, technology. But they agreed on things, and women empowerment and gender. Those are things that they didn't agree on. But they agreed on culture. They agreed on food security. They agreed on tourism. They agreed on finance and debt being global challenges. They agreed on critical minerals. So by the time it's the leaders' conversations, you have this momentum of the conversations that have been happening at a ministerial level. So I would say that I'm quite positive that consensus has been built despite the difficulties. For instance, you are mentioning Argentina, the US. There has been an increase in polarization among this group of 20 countries. But all of these countries share one thing, which is they all see the importance of keeping the forum as the premier forum for economic integration, as well as setting an agenda for the global financial architecture. So they all really believe in the forum, and at a leader's level, not to have consensus and come up with an agreement, I don't think it would be in any of their interests, because they truly believe in the importance of the forum.
I mean, it's interesting, because if you look at energy transformation, for example, I mean, Saudi Arabia is a member of the G20, and it's never going to agree to that. I mean, it just won't.
It's not that. So it's not that, for instance, Saudi Arabia wouldn't necessarily agree on energy, obviously, because they are a large hydrocarbon producing country, and they've got a lot of fossil fuels. So the conversations around energy transitions are always contentious, but countries agree on the idea to lower emissions, to decrease, to deal with the climate challenges. For instance, Saudi Arabia is part of the Paris Agreement. They have been party to the conversations on climate change. They are party to the UN Convention on UN FCCC. So it's not that they wouldn't agree to sort of taking step by step in sort of lowering emissions, and therefore, which means phasing out in whatever way countries determine this, to move into more renewable, into more cleaner, sustainable, cleaner energies. It's in the best interest of all the countries, given the challenges we're confronted with in terms of climate change and the disasters that we see. But it depends, and it differs from country to country. And that's what the G20 sort of builds, that consensus among the countries to say, what does each country need? For instance, the bigger conversation is also around financing. You know,
Sure.
like, for instance, in the case of South Africa, where we are coal dependent and most of our energy is generated from coal. How do you transition from that? Which means you need investment and financing to transition into a more renewable energy. That's what many other countries are also confronted with, but it's not that countries are not willing to have that conversation.
Dr. Mzwanele Ntswanti, thanks very much indeed. A senior researcher on the G20 at the Institute for Economic Justice. Dr. Dale McKinley is an independent political economist. Dale, good evening to you. One of the problems with the summit, and I don't see this as sort of our fault, is that it's going to be completely overshadowed by the person who's not here.
Good afternoon, Stephen, and to the listeners. Listen, I mean, Trump always has to take center stage, doesn't he? One way or the other. But in some ways, it's there's a double-edged sword here. The boycott obviously is not a great thing because the United States is an important economy and politically powerful. But on the other hand, it opens space. It opens space for us as South Africa to set a better agenda. It also opens space for other countries like China and others to take a bit more of a central role. And I think it offers an opportunity for other countries who do not like Trump and who do not like the United States and do not like his bullying and his attitude to basically agree amongst themselves that there are things that they can do that don't need the United States.
I mean, Ronald Lamola, our Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, pretty much said that on Tuesday morning. I thought that was quite an interesting comment. Do you think there's a chance of that happening? And I sort of wonder if maybe Argentina came simply to sort of stop that. And I say that because, just in my view now, we know the United States has been helping out the Argentinian government financially, and one presumes that there is, some cost to that.
Absolutely. I mean, Milei was bailed out by Trump. Let's be honest. I mean, if it hadn't have been for Trump, he would be in serious economic trouble. So I think he owes Trump big time, and he's coming to pay that debt. But besides that, I think our government in this case has played their cards fairly well. This is not about, and I think the expectations of the G20 are a little bit misplaced. It's not about whether or not there's a massive declaration which everybody agrees to, because in some ways it's a vacuous declaration. There's no binding nature to what the G20 decides. It's what goes on behind the scenes. It's the cutting of the deals, the bilaterals, and it's setting an agenda. And I think South Africa's way of setting this agenda and putting some of the key issues that affect most of the majority of the countries in the world who are left out of these conversations is something that is very positive, because that's what people are going to take up, whether that's intellectuals and research, whether that's other governments and other things in the next couple of years. And let's not forget, there's other countries here at play, France and very powerful other countries like China and EU countries that don't agree with what Trump is doing, that don't think that this sort of bullying tactics are going to work, and that actually do buy into the cooperation and collaboration approach that South Africa has pushed.
China is surely in the most interesting position right now, as the way you explained it earlier. There's suddenly a lot of space vacant, and China is so wonderfully placed to take some of that space.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it's unfortunate that Xi is not coming in terms of the leaders, but irrespective of that, I think this is the big superpower rivalry of our day, is China and the United States. And we can see it playing itself out in the tariff wars and so forth and so on. But here it is. China is, and particularly on the African continent. I mean, look, there's problems. We can have a lot of critique of Chinese foreign policy and some of the ways in which it's acted. But irrespective of that, the bottom line is that the way I would interpret, and I think several other people would interpret the actions of Trump in the United States, is a declining empire. An empire that has ruled for 50, 60 years post-World War II, that is realizing that its grip on a lot of things is lessening, and China is beginning to take some of those spaces. So what's going to be very interesting is how this plays itself out. And it could benefit us, not only South Africa, but as the African continent, because when the superpowers, as opposed to military conflict, economic competition or economic, one-upmanship could benefit us in terms of bilateral deals and continental trade deals.
Dr. Dale McKinley, thanks very much. Independent political economist, 26 minutes after 6.
The Money Show.
The Markets.
Imtiaz Suleiman is a portfolio manager at Sentio Capital. Imtiaz, good evening. Cell C today. So an update from them, the listing next week, seems to be worth, really roughly a quarter less than we previously thought.
Hi, good evening, Stephen. Yeah, I think if you look at the overall telco market in South Africa, it's quite competitive. And what we're seeing with the reduction in the price is maybe a softer uptake of what Cell C was hoping to get from the IPO. If we just take a step back, Cell C transitioned a while back in terms of giving up their towers, so they don't own any infrastructure. Essentially, they roam on the likes of MTN and Vodacom, and that gives them the ability to build out their subscriber base, but not invest in the network. Essentially, what that means is you don't make as much money like the incumbents. So it's very costly to roll out a network, to build towers, and South Africa is essentially a saturated market from a mobile space. So you look at around the world, the number 1 and number 2 operators make most of the money, and the number 3 and 4 really just fall behind and don't generate a lot of profit. So I think we're seeing some sort of concern by the market that the model is a bit challenged, and therefore the price had to be a bit lower for the uptake of the IPO.
I wonder how Telkom will view your comments, Imtiaz. SPAR had an update today, and they suggested that their earnings will actually, their headline earnings per share will actually be slightly lower, and the market's punished them for that.
Yeah, SPAR has been one that has been saddled with problems, especially in the offshore portfolio. They had to take some drastic measures, and they've sold their operations in Switzerland and Poland, and that allowed them to reduce some of the debt on the balance sheet. But bringing that back home, they implemented the SAP system, which didn't work out as they planned, and it caused massive disruptions in their distribution warehouses, which essentially cost them lost sales. And they're reeling from that. And whilst they're reeling from that, you've got a very strong competitor like a ShopRite, rolling out a lot of stores, taking up new space. And the South African market has been very competitive with inflation, and especially food inflation coming down, which is a headwind for the likes of SPAR. So in this update, they did guide that earnings are going to be down, as well as them taking impairments on the Switzerland operation, the UK operation, and some of the South African operations. So overall, a bit challenged from that perspective.
The South African company's offshore curse. And international markets have been so volatile the last couple of days.
Yeah, I think what we saw was NVIDIA's earnings come out on Wednesday night. And whilst they were stellar, the market is very concerned about the whole AI bubble that we potentially could be in, and what this massive amount of capex spend by these hyperscalers will mean in terms of profits. Does it generate enough revenue to justify this massive amount of capital expenditure? And that's what the market is grappling with. So whilst we're seeing still decent results come out of the US, there is concerns around some of the valuations of these big companies. And I think that's what the market's grappling with. And on the back of that, you've got the Fed, which is also due to make their interest rate decision in December. And the market is also 50-50 on whether we would get a cut at that meeting or not.
Mtaz Suleiman, thanks very much indeed. Portfolio manager at Sentio Capital. A few seconds after 6:30.
702 with Stephen Grootes.
Email him on stephen@702.co.za.
On the next Money Show, we'll hear from the chief executives of African Bank, Netcare and BPC as they unpack their latest company results. Then we turn to the art world with Marlies van Zyl, CEO of Aspire Art. Plus, we'll bring you expert analysis of all of the top business news of the day.
The Money Show.
The Friday File.
The Friday File.
So I don't know how much attention you pay to your sense of smell. If you are walking down a road and you see something, you're in a shopping mall or whatever, and you see something, you know what it is that is having an impact on you. With smell, with scent with a C, you don't always notice what it is. You can be walking down the road and you can suddenly be taken back 20 years to that girl you met in that place with that thing that no one's ever allowed to talk about. And you suddenly are reminded of that. And it'll take you a while to notice, because what happened was you walked past someone wearing the same scent. Kgothatso Moloto is the founder of Niche Parfums. He had a different job once. He was a chartered accountant until he decided to do something that's actually a bit more interesting. KG, good evening. Thanks so much for coming in.
Good evening, Steph. Welcome. Thank you for bringing me here.
There's such a power to a smell, isn't there? We don't always realize it. And I mean, isn't that one of the important parts of a smell? We don't always realize why it's so powerful.
Yeah, there is. Sense is an important part of our lives. And I think you touched on it a bit on the introduction, which you said that it creates an emotional connection, even to the past. It can remind you of the, past experiences, loved ones in the past, or even traumatic experiences. I've had people coming in and they smell a fragrance and they're like, it reminds me of my ex. I don't want it. Some have said that reminds me of back home. We have some fragrances that I made like that are meant to remind us of my childhood and distant memories.
The thing I find fascinating about it is that we often won't know even where a smell comes from. It's just when the person sort of walks past you again and you realize, it comes from that person.
Yeah.
And then I sort of wonder how much time, so if you look at how much time someone will spend getting dressed to go out, how do I look?
Yeah.
No one's ever asked me, how do I smell? Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting. So I think people spend a lot of time dressing up, and that's important, especially people who like style and clothes and personal aura and all of those things. But I also think that there are equally people who spend a lot of time thinking about what they wear. But it's not a lot of people, and I think it's important for people to think about scents the way they think about clothes and season and the way they change and all of those things. In the winter, they try to wear warmer clothes. So in the winter, you should also try to wear a warmer perfume. In the summer, they try to wear florals and, like lighter clothes. Also in the summer, you could try that. So a lot of people should think about perfumes when they wear, and also the occasion in which they dress for. Just like when you're going on a date on a Friday evening, you dress a certain way. On a Saturday evening, you dress a certain way. Think of a perfume the same way. I'm going out on a date. What should I wear? Something warm, inviting, sensual, sexy, 100%.
It's interesting because one of the strongest scents that I can think of is the scent of summer, the scent of spring, which is actually the scent of a blossom.
Yes.
And there's something to the perfume. How are perfumes made? I realize you're a chartered accountant, not a scientist. But, I mean, I'm always intrigued. Is there some person in a laboratory somewhere wearing a very strange hat? How's it done?
So it's a long process, and it's also a chemical process. So, but the actual term, the technical term for it, it's called perfumery or perfume making. So you have people that they call master perfumers, and then you also have like junior perfumers. So if you're a master perfumer, you must have been doing perfumes for a long time, and you must have attained the name. You are nation or internationally recognized as a master perfumer. But the process of making a perfume has the natural ingredients that are extracted from natural, for example, and oud could be extracted from a tree. The smell of roses or florals could be extracted from a rose. But you have something like we recently introduced 2 fragrances, whiskey fragrances. You can't extract directly from whiskey because alcohol evaporates. So you need to come up with molecules and fixatives so that you can create an illusion of scent. So you mix chemicals, the aldehydes, some of them we don't even know, we don't even use on our daily basis, but it's just chemicals that are mixed to give a certain scent.
Does someone in one of these labs, do they have a sense of an inspiration, like a painter would have a sense of an inspiration, or someone getting dressed for a Friday night would have a sense of inspiration, or do they just play around until they see what they get?
So I think it boils down to experience. How much do you know? Because what you know is what will enable you to attempt great exploits. So my favorite perfumer in this entire world is a guy by the name of Alessandro Gualtieri. His perfumes, all of them have beautiful story. One of the favorite fragrances from him is called Bergamasque. So Bergamasque is a fruity, citrusy, woody, and earthy type of a fragrance. So because he grew up, his grandfather was a perfumer and he grew up in his father's garden most of the time. So and the garden contained some citruses, the lemons, the bergamots and all of those things. So there comes the citrus top notes. And in the middle, you have the woods, which are coming from the tree. And then you have the earthiness, which is coming from the ground. So he took that memory and tried to recreate it into a scent. And when I wear it, every time I spray it, I can smell that which he was communicating. You know, you have another one called Seminales. It's a beautiful sensual fragrance which explores bodily fluids, and it has a artificial
bodily fluids. Did you say?
Yes, bodily fluids. Okay. Yeah, it's he's a strange guy. He's called the crazy perfumer, and it has a artificial smell of sperm in it, and mixed with your milks, your honeys, you know, lactone and sandalwood at the base. And when you smell that thing, you know, you're like, what is this guy doing? You know, he's got another one called Stekas. It's from feces and animal feces, and it does smell like that, but he gave it like a bit of sweetness to it, and it's just like amazing. It's an art, you know, worth exploring.
This conversation's gone in a very strange direction. There is often, if you go to a place where you can buy scents or perfumes, you'll see a sort of men's section and a women's section.
Yeah.
Is there really such a thing as a male fragrance and a female fragrance?
I think on a high level there is, but I think perfumes are, it's more of a marketing strategy to classify this as a female fragrance and this as a male
That's what
fragrance.
I wanted you to say.
100%. But there is also a truth to it where you smell something that just smells super sweet and floral and all of those things. And as a guy, you say, I wouldn't wear it, but it doesn't mean that all guys can wear it. There are guys who would lean towards it and they should wear it. There are fragrances that we said that these are female fragrances, but if a customer comes into the store and we make them test it, they are most likely to lean towards it, and we'll give it to them without telling them. But as soon as they go on the website and they see it under female fragrances, they want to bring it back. This is a female fragrance, you know, and we always encourage them that if you like it, you like it. Nobody's going to judge you. Wear whatever you want to wear. But us from a perfume house as Niche Parfums, what we've been doing, we've been coining more on the unisex fragrances, trying to get fragrances that befitting both for male and female.
And I presume that packaging plays a huge role in this, right?
Yeah.
So the smell is one thing.
Yes.
But it's also, if you're going to sell a perfume, the packaging really matters.
Yes, it does matter. But yeah, it's it just depends where you are. I think from a South African perspective, how we started with our packaging wasn't that nice. But we realized that you've got influencers, you've got we sell to the Gen Zs, the people of the social media, and because our brand was basically started from the social media perspective, so we knew that aesthetics matters. We needed to make it look better. But you have some heritage brands. I'll quote one, Lelabo. It's a nice brand, but they didn't give too much thought into their packaging. It's just a simple look and feel, but then the stuff inside is what matters for them, and it's really good. So you have many other brands that don't focus a lot on packaging, but they have the money to market their things, and they also, the craftsmanship is great and the perfume speaks for itself. So I think from a South African perspective, we sort of need to overcompensate. The thing needs to look nice for someone to buy it and to trust it, because it's not coming from France.
Or Italy. KG, thank you. Really good to talk to you. Really appreciate the time. Kgothatso Moloto is the founder of Niche Parfums.
Stephen Grootes
Taking your calls
on 011-883-0702.
Okay, time now for the Friday Biz Blitz on The Money Show. You know how it works. You call us on 011-883-0702, 021-446-0567. I ask you a question. If you get the question right, we move on to the next question. If we get the question wrong, we move on to the next caller. Okay, first question on the Friday Biz Blitz, this G20 Friday. By how many basis points did the South African Reserve Bank cut the repo rate in its latest decision? It's a simple question. By how many basis points did the South African Reserve Bank cut the repo rate, cut interest rates in its latest decision. 011 8830702 021 446 0567.
The Money Show with Stephen Kgothatso is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a registered FSP.
The Money Show, Friday Biz Blitz.
011 8830702 021 446 0567. By how many basis points did the Reserve Bank cut interest rates, cut the repo rate in its latest decision? Let's go to Meyersdal and Pabalo. Pabalo, hi.
Hello, it's 0.25 basis points.
I don't know if 0.25 basis points is quite the right way. I'm so sorry, Pabalo. Charlene in Roodepoort, by how many basis points did the Reserve Bank cut the repo rate?
By 0.25.
It's put in a different way. I'm going to give you another guess, Charlene. You're kind of there, but it's put in a different way.
0.25. Is that what you mean?
Sorry, Charlene. Mohammed in Pretoria, how many basis points?
25 basis points.
25 basis points. I'm afraid the decimal place does matter, Mohammed. All right, second question. This weekend, a U.S. retail giant officially opens its first branded store in Africa at Johannesburg's Clearwater Mall. Which company is making this big move?
Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, Mohammed. Okay. Chris, which U.S. retail giant is opening its first branded store in Africa at Joburg's Clearwater Mall?
Hello, Stephen. It is Walmart.
It is Walmart, Chris. Yes. 8 o'clock tomorrow morning if you're that interested. Okay, here's your G20 question. There had to be one. We all know where the G20 is being held this weekend. We all know where it's due to be held next year. But where was the last G20 summit held?
That was in Brazil. I don't know.
Chris, I will accept Brazil. It was Brazil. It was Rio de Janeiro. Okay. This hotel group reported its highest occupancy since the 2010 FIFA World Cup, hitting 73.3% in October. Which group was it?
That's Sun International.
No, Chris, it wasn't. So confident. Bonga Nkosi in Kempton Park. Which group had its highest occupancy since the World Cup? Bonga Nkosi, good evening.
Good evening. I would have said it's the Some group.
No, I mean you've got one of the words right, so I'll give you another go. Last go.
Oh my gosh!
Come on, Bonga Nkosi, you're gonna clap yourself if you don't get it.
Sun is Southern Sun.
Oh, Southern Sun. Yes, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next question. South Africa got its first credit ratings upgrade in 20 years. Which agency gave us the upgrade?
I will guess Moody's.
No, come on, Bonga Nkosi. I'll give you one last guess. Come on, which?
I'm not sure.
Oh, Bonga Nkosi, I'm sorry. Okay, the answer was S&P Global. It's 7 o'clock.